You designed the look for the Cylons after season 1.
Yeah.
Did they change after season 1?
Why do you talk about this every day? That's cool as hell.
Hello, and welcome to A Filthy Talk, a Filthy Lots weekly live panel discussion show coming to you live from North Vancouver. We are on the traditional territories of the Squamish Nation. We'd like to recognize the privilege to work, play, and create on these beautiful lands, and we encourage you at home in the chat on Twitch or on YouTube in the comments to tell us what traditional territories you are watching from. I'm Trevor Gemma, this is Roz Young, and returning as fact checker, I feel like it's been a while, is Ryan Whyte. So say hi to Ryan in the chat.
Yeah.
And yeah, welcome back, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Happy to be back.
It has. Sorry about that.
I was more recently a guest.
That's true. Yeah.
I was 51, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
They all blur together. There have been so many
Oh, no,
Filthy
50.
Talks.
It was episode 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the fact checkers were up there. It was great.
Number.
Yeah, okay, so something we've been doing a lot lately here is nerd news. So
Nerd
off the top,
news.
do you have anything for nerd news, Roz?
I have botanical nerd news,
That's pretty nerdy.
right?
Yeah.
If you're, it's also kind of local, so I'm sorry to our live show across all internet. And in Vancouver, anyway, if you live here, the corpse flower is blooming.
Oh.
So-
Do we only have one in all of the Lower Mainland?
Yeah.
We have one corpse flower.
Yeah,
so it
they're
is
pretty rare.
the corpse flower.
They're pretty rare. This one's name is Uncle Fester. It's at the Bloodell Conservatory. He's 9 years old. He's currently blooming. I just wanted to point out its name is Amorphophallus titanium. So real penisy, this flower. Real penisy. And it produces the stinkiest of compounds.
Have you been close to one when it's opening?
I have not been near Uncle Fester.
I never
No.
have. Yeah. So I don't
Silas went. Silas, what did it smell like?
Smell bad.
Thank you, thank you.
bad.
Smell. Corpse flower, smell bad.
Smell bad.
The science is awesome. Awesome, you guys.
What is it releasing?
It's got dimethyl trisulfide.
Oh, that old shtick.
Ooh, right? Oh, that's
Don't
the
we
like
all?
stinky cheese smell. Dimethyl disulfide, which is garlicky stinky, super stinky. I also wrote down trimethylamine, but that's the fishy smells, like rotten fish.
Why
Put
do
those
people go
together.
see these things?
And isovaleric acid is also produced by these plants when they're in bloom, which is sweaty feet socks.
Oh
smell.
my god.
So you just wrap up a bunch of garlic and rotting fish
And cheese and feet.
and like Lindbergher cheese, like the stinkiest of cheeses.
Gotta be somebody's kink.
Put it all in there, and you get the corpse flower smell. But you know what's weird? It doesn't produce cadaverine, which is the chemical
The cadavers
that
make?
that's putrefaction. Can't say words, but
That's
animal
okay.
tissue breakdown. When meat breaks down,
Yeah.
that smell. Yeah.
Huh.
Science.
Interesting. You made that real nerdy. That's impressive. You made that botanically nerdy and then just straight up science nerdy. I'm impressed.
That was my nerd, dude. What do you got going on?
And before I forget, I also want to say a big shout out to Big Pete's Collectibles in North Vancouver. Thanks, Big Pete, for hooking us up with some of the stuff that you can win. Segue with Channel Point Redemptions on Twitch. What's in the box is active, so you'll get asked trivia if someone triggers it. First person to answer correctly in the chat gets what's under one of these 5 mystery boxes. But also today, you can. 2 different redemptions. You can either add to the crunch or reduce the crunch, and you can either make this broadcast 5 minutes longer or 5 minutes shorter. So that'll be fun.
Oh, longer.
Yeah.
Longer.
Yeah. It's an hour for now.
Sweet.
Nerd news. What did I have for nerd news? Right. So this is interesting. Are you familiar with or know of OnlyFans?
I have heard of it.
Hello, Internet. Do you know about OnlyFans? So
Do you want to
OnlyFans-
admit to it to the rest of the internet?
As of today,
How I look.
OnlyFans has banned sexually explicit materials, which, as far as I'm aware, is basically their business.
Yeah.
That's like liquor stores being like, we're not selling any more liquor. Like, I don't understand.
It's the bar too, right? They're like, you know what we're out of? Shots. We ain't got none.
So that's an interesting thing. I don't need to say much more about it other than it feels like one more way to make the world a less safe place for sex workers, and not cool. The other thing is
Opinions.
the Eternals trailer. Have you seen it?
You just showed me the Eternals trailer. I realized you wanted to do a bit
This
here
is-
and be like,
this is
pretend. But like, we could have been live at the time. I was literally sitting.
None of this is real. This is a show. Okay.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
and
good. That's handy because we're going to talk about it a little bit.
It was good. It was really good, and a lot of
Yeah.
people who crowded around while we had it on. It was enough to pull in a bunch of people here.
Are you familiar with the Eternals?
Only from seeing teaser trailer stuff.
Oh,
so
okay.
I haven't read anything. And
I
you're-
recommend,
Yeah.
if people are at home, so this is a new Marvel movie coming out in November, and if you're like, who the fuck are the Eternals? Read the Neil Gaiman run of the Eternals from Marvel.
What can't that man write?
My favorite graphic novel of all time.
It's amazing.
The art alone, I've just flipped through the pages so many times.
And the
art
story's
is so
super
pretty,
cool.
But it's a very cool story too.
Yeah. So it's a bunch of new heroes, a whole team of new superheroes in the Marvel universe, and it ties to the Celestials, which gets real. I'm so glad they're not afraid to go off-world and go big, crazy, weird with concepts within Marvel now.
Guardians
So
of the
I'm
Galaxy
excited
opened
about it.
up so many possibilities.
And Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Like, it's all crazy. They're going multi-dimension. Let's go time travel. Let's do whatever.
But I bet the first time they were just like, hey, producers, we want to make a movie where we're out in space. And they were just like,
Well, there was,
no one's gonna watch that.
I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I will. But Jon Favreau, when he was just doing like the first Iron Mans, in the third one, they weren't going to pull the trigger on, what's his name? The Mandarin. Because he was magic. And he's like, I don't think that the audience is going to buy. It's all been technology. I don't think they're going to buy magic. And that was the mentality at the time when Iron Man 3 came out. That's why they made him not really the Mandarin and they made it a technological thing.
Lame.
Yeah,
Cowards.
super lame. Because then they went off the freaking deep end. Ryan, what's up?
I was going to say also, Apple, speaking of science fiction, Apple dropped another trailer for their Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, which I am personally very excited for.
Oh.
It's sort of like Game of Thrones, but in space. It's like this far future where there's like this galaxy-spanning human empire, and this guy has this like, I read the books when I was younger, but I don't remember like what his mechanism is, but he can like predict the future, and he predicts like the collapse of this empire, and the people who are in charge try to like silence him. Really cool.
It's called what? Foundation?
Foundation. It's on Apple TV. Coming
Interesting.
out in September.
Cool.
Based
I
on
have not heard of that yet.
Asimov's famous Foundation trilogy.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Man-made trilogies.
Did you have anything else for nerd news?
Yep.
What's
I
up?
want to talk about Fortnite.
Uh,
You son of a summons. You made Among Us in your game, you dang guys. And you didn't even invite them to participate or collab.
oh.
So Fortnite has imposters. Literally called imposters.
Wow.
A gameplay where you crowd around and you basically play Among Us, but it's Fortnite in their game. And
Brutal.
yeah.
Can they not like sue them?
Why? It's gonna cost them so much.
Oh, yeah.
They're already and Fortnite's already involved in a million lawsuits because they were POSs to begin with. I think our guests might have opinions
I was going to say,
too.
speaking of horrible shit that the gaming industry has done, we're going to talk a bit about that. To join us and explore this topic in various ways, we have Jason Rouleau and Trevor Adams. And Trevor Adams' first time on the show. So,
Thank you.
Wow.
Glad to be
I'm
here.
sorry it took so long.
Yeah, no worries. I was crying quietly in my cubicle.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a bit about. It's not unique to the gaming industry, but they are notorious for it. It's also something we've experienced in film, and but crunch time and like just overworking your employees in general. But yeah, why did you say it's me? Because it's me to
Because
talk
gaming
about it?
has produced this disaster. of a human being. Regarding the Among Us thing, though, they purposefully didn't try and gatekeep the game itself and the mechanics of it, because they didn't want to be the kind of studio that would do that.
Which studio is this?
Something sloth.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the
Fact-checking.
Among Us
So this is like-
game
Something
studio
that's
called?
sloth. So they're a smaller indie group making, a bunch of really committed, talented, passionate people.
That
created
people love
Among
the
Us.
game. And it's a
Inner
super fun-
sloth.
Inner
So
sloth.
I'm playing catch up it. So
Sloth.
Among Us is like a kind of an indie game, and then now it's like the big guys rolled over and took it. Is that
They
the
just
idea?
took the map is the same.
Oh,
The map.
really?
Oh,
So
that you do the exact same things in the game.
What?
And then you challenge. Then you like call a meeting, and you all end up in the meeting, and you
man.
and then
But,
you
like-
vote someone out.
the map, so we're like where the med bay is, they moved it to the other side of the hallway.
It's like they're not even trying.
I know, it was like, this was some like, I started this last night homework. Like,
Oh, what?
Oh.
This is all new to me like
Yeah.
5 seconds ago. So I'm like,
you should
quite
play
amazed.
Among Us with us because it's super
Yeah.
fun. We
It's-
play
yeah.
online together.
Yep.
Yeah.
the
and
devs actually said like,
it's so cute.
look at the
That's
maps.
amazing.
Yeah. Damn.
Wow.
But they were also tweeting just adorably and sad, saying, they didn't even ask us to collab. It would have been nice. It's just a really hard day for us here because
Yeah,
there's
with
just
like
not
the
much we
most
can do.
successful game, like a huge juggernaut of a game making tons of money, doesn't need to steal from the little guy.
Yeah.
Or just involve them.
Yeah,
Like-
they would have been so stoked. You could have had like Among Us crossover skins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People in Fortnite pay all sorts of stuff for stupid skins.
Well, and that's,
Why wouldn't they
Dancing.
that's
want
just
their
the thing
Among Us
is,
thing?
yeah, is Fortnite like light?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how the whole thing started. Thank you,
yeah.
Alex. Good point.
I mean, that's their whole game mechanic, isn't it?
Yeah, because it was originally not built as a battle royale, and then I think they might have removed the videos, but it was the devs being like, "We love PUBG," and then like 2 weeks later, they're like, "We're doing battle royale."
Oh man,
Like-
that's cold.
That's basically the way the game has worked. Is like, we like this game. I made this.
I made this. Oh, that's dark.
But they definitely made it consumable for a huge audience, and I don't know that many people will care.
See, there's
They're the
another
Microsoft
game.
of BRs.
There's another game that ripped off Among Us recently that I've played that is a lot of fun, but it's free and it is an indie thing, and it's called Goose Goose Duck. But basically, they've taken, because Among Us, the community has taken a bunch of like mods and made so that you have like proximity chat or different things that like are more common in what's the werewolf game called? Secret Werewolf? No, not
Werewolf?
just called Werewolf.
Yep.
Right. So like there's a
It
sheriff.
was like
or
Mafia
there's-
first for people who.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like special,
first
so there's
time.
special roles and stuff in Goose Goose Duck that like people did make mods for Among Us, but now Goose Goose Duck has it permanently programmed into the game, and it's fun. It's blatantly a ripoff, but it's free. So they didn't really screw over Among Us on the, any kind of scale that Fortnite had.
It's a quality of life improvement. Like, it could have been a mod, but they built it. Like, and they included the quality of life updates that people have been wanting for Among Us anyway.
But they at least Goose Goose Duck has their own maps. You're playing as geese that can fart. You have to buy the farts.
You have to buy the what, sorry?
The farts.
The farts?
It's so stupid.
Naturally.
But there's its own maps, its own mini games, and that kind of thing. Like so, it copied it.
You're contributing to a community.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think that the Among Us team is claiming they invented, sus, or that they invented the idea of this accusation system that is based on games.
That's why they didn't even patent it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Like,
Which is
'cause-
also probably why they can't sue Fortnite.
Well, so yeah, that was part of it because I think previously a company had patented mini games in loading screens,
Interesting.
and then was going after anyone who had put a mini game in a loading screen. So they were like, we basically just don't want to be like that.
Huh. Okay, so
Thanks, Epic.
So we want to talk about mostly crunch. We got the Fortnite thing really.
Sorry.
No, it's not. Don't be, sorry. Why?
Turns out being mad at Fortnite can
Yeah.
fill a lot of time.
yeah.
Because I said, when you asked me, how long is your nerd news? And I was like, oh, a couple minutes.
JK, 15 minutes of anger.
We're crunching on Fortnite. Okay, sorry. Now I made it even longer.
So like crunch in video games. Like I mean, some of the most famous ones we know. I know I was upset by CD Projekt Red imposing a crunch on their people to get Cyberpunk out in time, and then just releasing a broken game anyway, which makes that all for naught. And I assume that the workers are probably just like, why do we do this? Like why?
Well, especially when they spent months just, how can I say this nicely? Congratulating themselves repeatedly for not crunching.
Oh, I know what you were going
Oh.
to say.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. So, TA, you're on the show because you are not unfamiliar with deadline crunch.
Oh yeah, I've had my experience with it.
Yeah. You want to So your first time, you got to tell us a bit on, who are you? What do you do? Where'd you come from, bro?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess
Where'd you go?
I'm like I guess now I'm like the AFL VFX guy.
Yeah.
So my job has been dealing with anything beyond the camera. So filling blue screens, creating CG characters, and all that stuff that falls in line with that. I've been in this now for 20 years, and I've definitely seen my share of crunches.
So what was give us an example of what the job you were doing at the time was, and what was the worst crunch you came up against?
I think honestly the record for me would be Battlestar Galactica. It was season. Oh God, I can't remember. It's been so long.
It's okay. It's gonna be.
Well, you can fact check it if you want, but it's basically, I don't know if anyone's watched the show. There was an episode where basically an army of Cylons come marching into town. The human race has had a refuge on a planet.
Season 4.
I think it was season 4.
Yeah.
You're right. It was a season finale, and so. Okay, so a little background. I was a Cylon guy, so I designed the look for the Cylons after season 1, and there was an issue.
You designed the look for the Cylons after season 1.
Yeah.
Did they change after season 1?
Why do you talk about this every day? That's cool as hell.
So I'm in my little corner, but it's okay. Here, a little more back history. So. Season 1, a studio called Zoic did a fantastic job designing these Cylons and everything.
Yeah, they were dope.
They're great, and but they used a different type of software called Lightwave. And any VFX people watching, if any, are going to go, ugh. And the problem with Lightwave at the time was it was a very old school rendering technology, and I was all like, mental ray tracing, HDRI lighting. And so I took some free time and I rebuilt the Cylon with an updated software.
Oh.
And rendering algorithms. So that was a fruit fly.
Oh.
They liked it.
Nice.
David Icke, the executive producer, and Ron Moore, who was the writer, was very excited about it. And so they said, "You're the guy now." And I was working at Atmosphere Studios in Vancouver at the time, so they're like, "You're the Cylon guy." And so I said, "Okay, cool.
It's pretty cool.
I'll do Cylons." So I did Cylons all through season 3 and
It's
season
the
2.
only thing you need to put on your resume now.
Yeah, I'm the Cylon guy?
Cylon guy.
Just say that instead of your name.
It helps. It does help.
Yeah, I bet.
But, so okay, fast forward to the season finale, and the problem with the Cylons was, as beautiful as they were, in my humble opinion, they were also very expensive to render. And so rendering one would take an hour and a half, 2 hours per frame. And they're like, okay,
Wow.
They were like, here's a script drop for the season finale. Surprise, you have an army of Cylons. So you can have I forget the number, but it was a lot. It was like an army. It was like like the marching.
More than 2.
More than 20. And it was like, we need this delivered in 2 weeks. And I ran the rendered projections, and I was looking at, based on my current projections, it was going to be more like a month of render time just to get the Cylons drawn and then delivered to comp, and then they can put it into the shot.
Wow, that's crazy.
Obviously, I didn't work. I went to Andrew Carr, who's head of Atmosphere, fantastic guy, and he's like, "Holy shit, we're kind of in trouble." And I said, "I'll be back." And I went and figured this out. So I basically started tearing stuff out of the render shader, and I'm like, "Okay, they're new Cylons. They're marching into town." And I start talking to the story writers, and they're like, "Okay, well, this is supposed to be this is their finest Cylons walking in. So can I make them shinier?" And by shinier, I mean I take away a lot of the patina and dirt, which streamlined the rendering time to the point where it's borderline. What was that
Fresh
old,
off the assembly line Cylons?
Yeah, almost I'm just pulling back to mid-90s chrome Cylons.
Oh, freshly polished
And if
Cylons.
you-
Yeah, T2 Cylons.
So if you go back and watch that episode, you'll see that they're really shiny.
Just brand new toasters?
Yeah. And it happened to work for that moment in the story because they're this is their finest Cylons. They're taking over. We've won. We're at Caprica. We're taking over this human race and all that stuff. And I managed to get the hour times down to about 5 to 8 minutes per Cylon.
Oh, wow.
And so,
From 2 hours?
From 2 hours.
Whoa.
And it was a lot of basically just trimming all the fat to get something that works.
That's a lot of fat.
And it was a lot of fat.
Yeah.
And so I guess the whole point of this story is that to achieve that in a short amount of time, we were up at one point for 28 hours straight. My friend Louie and I, who was like the co-animator, and we were like just trying like we got to get this done, and we were literally standing outside the 7-Eleven because we were out of coffee. We drank it all, waiting for them to open so that we can like. And we're standing there with like a coffee mug and like a cigarette, and just like. And this is like hour 20, and we're like, just to get this thing out, because the problem is when we delivered these Cylons, 2 days later, it goes prime time. So 2 days between one of the most followed shows at the time to the finale of the season, we had to deliver these Cylons.
Damn.
So the pressure was quite high because you literally have. It was like Game of Thrones level viewership.
Oh.
And imagine like
Yeah,
your
that makes sense.
job was to render the dragon in the final episode, and you have 2 days to deliver it. It was that kind of pressure.
It feels.
So
It's
it
like
was
such a bad idea. I mean, it's different when you're already on. So what was the time between you finding out that you needed to, like, you got the script and found out that it needed to be that much bigger?
Well, the scripts usually came in about 2 weeks in advance. Typically, like the pattern for like an episodic is you get the script, or you get like what you need to do, and you got 2 weeks to turn it around. And I think there was a miscommunication, or maybe it's just it didn't realize how long it took us to render Cylons. So it was kind of like, okay, I never explained to production that it takes 2 hours to render a Cylon, and they're already written into the show, and they've already like the episode before that kind of leads up to that moment, so there's no way they can write around it. So it was one of those situations where it kind of painted into a corner.
Yeah, not planning ahead very well.
Yeah, I think it was maybe that, and just not knowing all the information to make that call.
So did this affect your opinion of the show? Like, did you like having to work that hard and experience like a really hard crunch?
Yeah.
Does it alter like the pride you have in your work, or increase it? Does it diminish it or increase it?
For me, like I got onto Battlestar originally because I watched season 1 and I loved the show. And then I found out that Atmosphere, it was a local studio, was doing it. And I reached out to Andrew and I said, hey man, I really like your work. I just came off Andromeda at the time, and it's more that same sort of show, and I'd love to help you out. I don't know what.
That's cool. That's cool.
You all right, Jason?
I'm not saying Andromeda is a great show, but
No, I'm saying that's cool as hell.
Oh,
Are you just like fanboying?
No, just like I just like got off Andromeda. Then went on to Battlestar.
Sorrel's a great guy.
And
Very safe.
You're gonna go IMDb Trevor after this.
Yeah, probably.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
He's gonna be your favorite coworker now.
I've been doing
he
this a
already
while,
is.
man. Yeah, I've been doing this a while.
he's the first aid attendant, and he's like super nice all the
I
time.
can fix a bullet wound, and I can render a Cylon like nothing.
He can make a new bullet wound digitally.
I can make a Cylon shoot you, and I can fix you.
Nice.
I don't-
How?
I don't understand. Yeah, he's my favorite
Make
coworker.
me
by
wonder
far.
how much would we have to alter a Cylon to use one in something here?
Wait.
Oh, we can do. I think I still have. I don't know if I should say this on camera. I may or may not have some assets.
Look, we all lift and shift a little bit when we leave places,
Yeah.
Take a little bit of
But
something.
to go back to your earlier question, like it didn't make me feel discontent to the show at all. In fact, it made me want to like try harder. I mean,
Really?
I love
Glutton
the
for
show. I
punishment.
came on because I love the show, and David Icke, Ron Moore, they're fantastic guys. Drew, the guy who runs Atmosphere, he's great. I just wanted to like do what I had to do to like make everyone happy, and also for the show to do well, because I was invested in it as a fan.
Yeah.
Like when those, and this is back before things were really locked down. Like we get scripts from Battlestar, and like as soon as they dropped it off, I like snatched it around on my desk and I was reading it because I loved the show. And so to have an opportunity to like be that guy, the fix-it guy, to me, I was
Hero.
I felt honored to have the opportunity. At the same time, at the end of the 28 or 26 hours of grinding, I was tired. So I was like, let's not do that again. But and it worked out. I mean, like everyone loved it. It was okay. But
Because I think that love and that passion, and why so many artists, visual artists in Vancouver, get into, they want to work on their favorite Marvel hero. They want to work on their, or anybody who gets into their favorite game, and they get to be an artist on those shows. The industry does abuse those people.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
That's invisible pressure.
Yeah.
Right? You love
That's a
it
good way to
so
put it.
much that you're willing to, especially when you're new and you're hungry and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
younger and you can afford it because you don't have a family, or maybe you don't have like those sorts of obligations where you can't do those things all the
Boundaries.
time. Oh my gosh. I don't know, because like for you it was worth it in that moment, but like if that is your career over a really long period of time, that is a hard grind to expect of people.
Yes.
If that was like the norm, 100%. And like I was like mid-20s, no family, single guy. So at that time I was like, yeah.
That's just
Okay.
fun.
I can do this. It's just this week.
But and I've seen the negative side of that where people do kind of, I've seen in other studios and other projects where it's literally ground people into the dirt. At least in the visual effects world, in a very negative light. Like they're there because it's a job, but they have kids and they have wives and they have lives.
Yeah.
Or husbands.
And it's taken incredible tolls on people. And it's like, there needs to be more of a balance between life and work. And it's interesting with COVID and how it's changed that,
Yes.
and it's
Really brought some stuff to the forefront.
Okay, we're going to talk about
Address
COVID
their
stuff.
priorities.
Ryan had something coming up from
I
chat.
was just
Ryan,
going to say
point.
some that twinged in my mind after what Trevor Adams was saying there, that as someone who kind of came from more like the corporate world and less so the film industry, one thing that always really struck me, my first job out of university was at TELUS. And they paid a lot of lip service, and I emphasize lip service, to this notion of like work-life balance. And my girlfriend works in tech and has worked in startups, and I've seen this same pattern
so they
over.
said it a lot.
Well, what they say is that work-life balance matters. We want you to, be able to do the things in your life that matter, spend time with your family, pursue your hobbies and your passions. But they consistently never have coverage of people's roles.
Oh, yeah.
And we suffer from this here to an extent too. And this is honestly a challenge to us in our business at A Filthy Lot. But it's, okay, we want you to have balance, but we're going to make it so there's no one else who can do your job if you're away pursuing that balance. And we're going to make your deadlines and deliverables such that you don't have time to pursue that balance as well.
Yeah.
And so like it's always, it's something that's really rung hollow to me and sort of been a lot of like astroturfy corpo speak and what I've experienced and what my partners experienced.
It's intentional.
Oh, yeah.
It's an intentional business strategy for large corporations where they'll say, how many hours do you need for a week? And they'll pull back like 7%. So when you have restaurant workers where like someone's sick and then they get guilted into taking another shift, it's a very intentional especially from large corporations. For like an independent company, it's a little bit harder, where you're just wearing different hats. But it's extremely intentional from, I would assume, a TELUS, but especially like a Starbucks.
Yeah,
where
a company that's making $10 billion a year in profit.
But they know how many hours they need for it to work.
Yeah.
And then they pull it back.
Yeah, and they hire just enough people.
They hire
to
less
do-
than enough people.
Exactly, just less than enough people to do all the work that they say needs to get done. And so it's like, yeah, cool, go have your balance, spend time with your family, but we actually need you to work 50 hours a week.
Yeah, because someone's
forever
gonna
and
be
always,
sick.
and there's no one to cover you, and there's no one to do your work if you're away, and so you won't take vacation, because if you come back from vacation, that just means that you're gonna have twice as much work for the next month.
And it's completely intentional.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It is like we only have enough people to barely cover less than what we need.
Yeah.
And then, you get, I think anyone who's worked in restaurants gets the like, I can't make my shift. Can somebody cover, please? And then people on their day off get guilted into coming in because they've understaffed
I had that in retail.
intentionally. Yeah.
So where have you experienced crunch?
I have experienced less crunch probably, but like festivals.
Ah.
But
What's
that's
festivals?
that's just kind of like the nature of. That's the nature of festivals. Is like
Jason's done a ton of big festival stuff.
No, I'm fanboying. Wait.
yeah,
Yeah, like what?
not Battlestar, not the Battlestar Festival.
Battlestar Base Coast? What?
Yeah.
Space Toast.
That'd be good.
Space Toast. That's a.
But like,
that'd be
especially with events, it's kind of the nature of it where it's like I used to do craft beer week, but like you can only have the venue for so long, so it's like hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah, from
Go,
the
go,
word
go,
go.
go, go, go. Do the festival. Oh, okay, we need to leave because if we don't leave by midnight, we're paying rent on another day. I've been very fortunate to work for festivals that are like, oh yeah, if you do overtime, do overtime. also, if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done.
So now, but you're a pretty hardcore gamer, yes? And as a gamer, very aware of all of like the gaming industries.
As a gamer and a communist.
And a communist? Are you a communist?
Yes.
Like you
place
vote
it
communist?
Yes.
Oh, it's amazing.
So like, when I see like crunch, capitalist,
You can say bullshit.
okay, bullshit. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah, fuck it, you can swear.
So here are some games that were brought to you by Crunch. Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption, good game.
I do enjoy it.
Mass Effect Andromeda,
Yeah.
for anyone who played that, brought to you by making people work too long.
Is that the first one?
No, it's the
That's
fourth one.
that's the fourth one.
Yeah, it was the one that like Mass Effect fans. It's actually the only one I've played,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. But
The mechanics are great.
yeah, but
I
like,
enjoyed the first two.
but the people who loved the first three were super disappointed by Andromeda.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were like, how is
The-
this a sequel? It's just terrible. It's worse than
Mechanics.
the first one.
Apparently, the Legendary Edition is quite good because they updated like the mechanics of Andromeda and the gameplay of Andromeda was really good.
Yeah, it
Matt's
was.
playing it right now. He's played all the way from 1, 2, 3 for Legendary, and he's in 4 now.
That's huge because like I went to try and play Mass Effect 1 and was like, I remember this being way better.
Yeah.
But also Anthem. Crunch brought you Anthem, a game that was abandoned by one of the largest studios on the planet after like a month.
So that's one instance where I blame the fans because I really loved that game. Like I know what they promised and I know what we got.
Yeah, it's
But
like worse Destiny.
it was so much fun. It was basically you get to play as one of 4 different types of Iron Man suits. Like it wasn't like Destiny because
Yeah.
in Destiny you can't jump up and just fucking jetpack around. Like there was mechanics in that are equivalent to no game that exists. And it was really fun. And the fans just shit on it because it wasn't what they imagined it.
But I also think
Yeah.
abandoned is a really good word because it could have gone to
could
the
have fixed
place
it.
that it was supposed to.
They
be,
could have fixed it.
You know?
They,
No Man's
the
Sky.
last time I logged
I was
into
just
it-
gonna say No Man's Sky. What a revolution!
Oh, did it get better over time?
It's
So much.
amazing. now.
Apparently it's like one of the best games out there now. But when it came out, like
It's
Not what
interesting
people
because if you look
expected,
at like if you
not what
look
they
at the
promised.
reviews on Steam by like year,
One,
the
one,
first
one,
year it came out it was like 1s. The second year it was like out of 5, 2s. The third year it was like 3s, and now it's like universally positive.
Oh, interesting.
People love what
it's one
the
of
game
the
has
only.
become.
I would say like that and Diablo 3 are one of the only games that have, regardless of whatever else Blizzard's up to, some of the only
whole other
games that
episode.
they've successfully turned an absolute trash fire
Yeah.
into
Comes
like
from
a well-liked game. Because that's the hardest part. You can make it a good game, but like if you've blown it, no one's gonna like it.
So, the question I was going to ask was, as a gamer, when you hear about the companies subjecting themselves or subjecting their workers to that kind of a work environment, do you still play the game? Do you still buy the game that you're anticipating and support them like crunching to a deadline because you want your new toy? Like it's like, candy, give me my candy. I don't care how they're treated. Or like, because I mean, I do, and I'm asking this question, but I'm totally playing devil's advocate.
The big thing I think is it's tough because also like if everyone refuses to buy it, these people are also out of a job. So what's really tough is that the people who are actually going to be affected by a boycott are all the people that get laid off. Everyone else gets a golden parachute. They can jump out of their plane of bullshit to some other company with like $30 million. Like the people who should be like dragged into the street get to go home.
That's so poetic. It's so true.
Yeah, and it's the everyone gets laid off who actually put the work in and got to fight with investors and the board of directors about just shitting out a game 2 years early, like Cyberpunk. Can you imagine crunching and then releasing Cyberpunk?
I know.
In that state? Like, what an absolute travesty.
Yeah, we're 8 months later, and they just announced like a new update. The game is better than ever, and I was like,
By the way, new update, cars honk after they hit you now. That's the new patch.
And this is after 10 years of
Yeah.
building the game.
Yeah, this is 10 years of
Yeah.
just being like, guys, but Cyberpunk.
No, well,
okay.
that's the crazy thing is that
But a lot of us also, like, people, like, you purchased early, right?
Yeah.
I did because I'd been waiting for a very long time.
Everyone
Like,
waited
not
for
as
it.
long as everybody. I only heard about. I saw the original trailer like maybe 3-4 years before the game came out instead of the full like 8 or whatever. But it was. They already knew that the audience was willing to wait. That they were like
they waited for like 10
super
years.
anticipating that game.
Speaking of waiting, we're here for another 5 minutes.
Oh,
there you go.
Our first add to the
Famous for
crunch. Oh no,
nothing.
sorry. Would you? Oh, never mind. It's balanced itself out.
Okay, so
Reduce the crunch.
games that came out without
Never
crunch.
mind. Nothing has changed.
No, that's awesome. Famous for Nothing added 5 minutes, and then Bored and Crazed reduced 5 minutes. So,
Nice.
removed. Thanks, guys.
Games that came out without crunch. Supergiant doesn't use crunch. They released Hades, arguably one of the best games of the last year.
So good.
Obsidian does not use crunch. They released Pillars of Eternity, The Outer Worlds, and Grounded. Digital Extremes does Warframe doesn't use crunch, which is a great free-to-play game. Check out Warframe. And Respawn. Respawn is the most significant one for me. So they did Titanfall and they do Apex Legends.
Oh, okay.
Apex Legends is like a team-based battle royale.
AAA titles.
It is like, so Respawn was like the old Call of Duty team. They left and created Respawn and then made Titanfall. For me, one of the best, not one of my favorite games ever made, but one of the best games ever made. But the fact that they're running a games as a service platform, it's free to play for Apex. The mechanics are top notch. The fact that they're releasing a season-based games as a service without crunch, I think speaks to looking at Epic for Fortnite, looking at EA for Call of Duty, all of these other games as a service platform. You can do it without crunch. Apex is doing it. I think it's on quality-wise, it's probably the best of the BRs. They're putting out good content. They're putting it out consistently, although a little bit slower. It just shows that you can do it.
Well,
and
CD Projekt Red could have done it.
Yeah, they could have done
The
it.
audience was clearly willing to wait for
Yeah.
a very long time.
And that's the whole thing with Respawn is they're like, we make good games. We're just, sometimes it's going to take an extra couple weeks, and that's the way it is. And people are going to buy it. And Apex could have been a flash in the pan game, but they have completely, they've just leaned into the marathon.
So this is a whole thing, like something that you were just talking about, like. Okay, I'm asking you, like, did you still buy the games? And
I pirate them.
And I do too. But like, if you look at your
mean-
money and what you're spending your money on as your vote, then you're supporting them to keep doing. You're perpetuating the situation.
But how do we
And-
tell the industry that we're
Yes.
supporting the artists like Trevor,
Yes.
who is super excited to work on Battlestar Galactica or whatever it is next? You know, how do we do that?
Well, and
Don't
some people
pre-order.
say it. What?
Don't pre-order.
Don't
never
pre-order?
pre-order.
Well, that's interesting. I think it's not just that we need to act, it's that they do. Because some people will be like, you have to unionize. Like you have to have the people in the game industry unionize, or like special effects post workers also aren't part of a union.
You know, it's interesting because like it's come up multiple times over the years, and I've been at the forefront, like, you know, coming in. When I started VFX, it was like there was no ILM here, there was no Pixar, there was no Sony. It was literally like Lost Boys Studios, Image Engine, a lot of like great but smaller boutique type studios.
Yeah.
And we were all like, we're cool. We don't need to be like unionized at all, right? But then it started to become a thing because bigger studios. It's not only bigger studios, but people started to get abused.
Yeah.
And these abused artists started going to unions like IATSE and stuff and saying, hey guys, we've been running crazy and we're getting like treated unfairly. And there'd be these big town halls, and they were very emotional. And I've been to a few of them over the years, and it was interesting because there'd be a few people at the forefront, old school guys that have been like in the VFX industry for years,
Yeah.
kind of pushing for it, and all the young guys coming in saying like, we don't want it, you know, we don't need it. We don't want control. We don't want people saying where our seniority is and stuff. And there was this
We're not tired
interesting.
yet.
Yeah, it was this interesting kind of like.
Yeah. Willing to take the abuse.
Yeah, kind of. in a weird sort of way, it's like they were more interested in having this like non-unionized freedom as opposed to having like a protection from big studios that are frankly taking advantage of.
It's true, but the funny thing is
things,
like
right?
even unions aren't necessarily what they used to be. Like unions need to, the people who are in them and the unions themselves need to be strong. Like there's going to be a necessary sacrifice to get the change made that you want.
Yep.
And there's certain things, like when I found out that, like I'm an 891 member of IATSE, and when I found out that they gave away the right to strike, I was like, well then why be a union? What the hell? Yeah, surprised?
What's left?
Surprise is fucking weird, right?
Collective action is literally the only thing that works.
It's the only weapon that a union really has, and they gave it up. And I was like,
That's not a union.
what the hell's the point? No, it's not.
And it's a collective
They
bargaining.
probably
I've
argue
never heard
for
that.
But it's a collective
Crazy.
bargaining without
Benefits.
being able to
And,
strike. Like,
benefits, standard salaries.
There's certain things
And
they
that's great.
fight for a lot of things, but at some point, someone who was in charge and was at that table said, "We'll give that up."
That's-
But
that's
like
your
the biggest
huge
thing.
bargaining
Like,
chip.
When I was a kid, I was a teenager, and my stepdad was a member of a union, and the projectors union at theaters went on strike. And I was like, oh, let's go see this movie. And he was like, well, you can go. I can't. And I was like, what? And I didn't quite get it. And it's because he was a union member, not a projectors union member, but any union striked and he refused to cross a picket line. And there has to be solidarity amongst workers. Like if that doesn't exist, and I mean, as a communist, if you're a self-proclaimed communist, then you get that. But if that doesn't exist, then unions don't work.
yeah,
They're
well,
just businesses.
And at that point, it's just a business.
And they're using the people as their commodity.
At that point, you may as well just be HA. Like, so what?
Wow.
Like, you're just gonna like, what are you threatening? Like, if you can't walk out,
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
It's a nice
But
studio. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
yeah. Well, I mean, like that's what you're left
The funny
with.
thing is that's what happens okay, so we have cable trucks in BC, like working in the lighting and power in film. We have big trucks that you put all the like seaway on, like huge spools of really heavy cable. They don't have those in LA.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories of a cable truck being brought down to LA for a production, and it got set on fucking fire. Like the workers down there, because it's job protection. These guys walk around with carts full of seaway, and they're like, that truck will take our jobs away. And they burn that son of a bitch down.
Yeah.
And they're like, I was working on a show with a guy from LA, and he was like, what is this thing? Because he'd never seen a cable truck. He's taking pictures. He's like, this is wild. It's so efficient.
Listen, shut up.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if anybody. Oh, we've had another Reduce the Crunch redemption as well.
Oh, damn.
But I was going to ask if anybody had any connection to anybody that worked on the Seth Rogen animated picture Sausage Party. Because I don't know if you remember when that one came out, but there was a lot of horror stories around
really?
that production.
No.
But he likes
I have
weed,
friends
man,
that
so
worked
it's
on
cool.
it. I didn't work on it myself, but yeah,
okay.
it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was like allegations of a lot of unpaid overtime and like really serious heavy duty crunch and,
And
just,
this
like,
is-
they had like animators that were like full-time professional, like, you know, feature film fucking animators that were making like $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Like,
See,
There was a lot of promises made during that production, and during the time when they needed people to be in their seats doing their work.
Yeah.
And in the end, from my understanding, this is through hearsay, through people I've talked to, so I can't say firsthand. But they didn't. In the end, it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll get it back in the back end, and they didn't.
yeah, that
And
never
that caused a
happens unless
big
you're-
uproar, and that was another one of those, like, there's always these certain projects along the line that will initiate a push for unionization. And
Yeah, push people so far.
and that was one
Yes,
that honestly,
that was
because
one.
there
That was a
have been
big
efforts
one.
to unionize animators in Vancouver. I don't know where
Yeah.
they stand right now, but I know
Well-
after that production, that was, I think, one of the things that really kicked off the efforts to unionize animators in Vancouver.
there's these moments along the line where it spikes, and
Yeah.
like everyone's like in an uproar, and then there's town halls, and people are talking about it, and then things seem to simmer down, and for some reason, people seem to fall back in line, and it continues the way it's always been going. And then something else happens. It actually happened with Battlestar, not the BSG that I worked on, but then the season after, or the show after that,
Oh, okay.
when they finale'd
Is it
BSG
just
that I
called
worked on.
Caprica?
Caprica, yeah. There was there was a bunch of new people, juniors, that got on, and they were ground into the dirt. It was an in-house studio. It wasn't like a studio. It was like production studio. And same thing. When that happened, they went to IATSE and like, we want to unionize. And these were like mostly people that had been in the industry for maybe 5 years or less. And there was a whole bunch of uproar there. So it's like every once in a while you get these projects where a group of people are taken advantage of, and then there's like a big ripple, and then there's like a whole bunch of like rubble, and then things seem to simmer down. And then it comes back in, and at the end of the day, it's like it's an artist.
Is that the big like the same thing that happens in gaming, where the AAA, games and the companies that make those games know how to weather the storm just long enough to get back to putting people back into the rat race mill. Go back to animating this one thing and just like pump it out. Yeah.
That's been my MO. Like when these things happen, I'm usually working on a project, and I'd be like, I'm personally fine. I've been asked like by some of the people, the rabble rousers, were like, you should get in there, and I'm like, yeah. It's like I appreciate what you're trying to do, but at the same time, I'm not really discontent with what I'm doing. So it's like there's not really enough motivation for me.
So that's something that's a little weird when it comes to being a creative person, because if you're doing what you love, you also find it fulfilling. Yeah. And like if you're getting subjected to insane hours and insane work week schedules, but it's a job that you're doing for the money only, and you don't really want to be there, then it's like, oh man, fuck this. But if you are getting any kind of creative fulfillment from it, then it's really double-edged.
And that's kind of
how often it happens.
Yeah. You're exploiting enthusiasm. We saw the same thing in music. I wasn't even allowed to have an out of office when I was a talent buyer. It was like, if you have an out of office, it makes you look like you're lazy.
What does that mean, out of office?
Like an auto reply on emails. Like, hi, I'm out of the office for 5 days.
Out of the office. I see.
It was like, if somebody emails you and they get that, they're gonna think you're lazy. It was like,
I gotcha.
So
this seems really toxic.
Yeah, that's super toxic. There's something. We've only got 10 minutes left because of Crash's redemption. Thanks. We're only doing a 55-minute show. Okay, so this is something.
Farming point.
I have Minecraft to play.
You mentioned the fact that. So have you voted communist? That's amazing.
Really
I've always thought it was useless.
Future episode.
Well, no. But we have an election in Canada that was just announced. It's a super opportunistic election by the Liberals on a federal level because they're polling ahead. So they're like, let's have an election, even though there's not supposed to be one for 2 more years. But something that's on the platform for the NDP is a universal basic income, and I think that. If there's any message that anyone takes away from this episode, if you're listening, is look into universal basic income. Because if you were maybe doing a job that you couldn't keep doing during the pandemic, and you were collecting in Canada what was called the CERB, which was government support, you had a safety net for the first time that you needed when shit hit the fan, and suddenly you were okay. You didn't have to worry about making ends meet because you had a guaranteed income that you weren't necessarily having to work for. And a guaranteed basic income, your universal basic income, if that gets through, then it takes away one of the biggest elements that enforces crunch, which is fear. People just are scared of losing their job, scared of not being rehired if they won't do what the company is asking them to do. And if that's eliminated, then people get to actually pursue their dreams a lot more.
There's a reason we saw more civil discontent, especially in the US, but also in Canada, because all of a sudden, especially in the US, because your health insurance is tied to your employment, which is great. What a great idea that was. So turns out when you don't need to worry about all of a sudden not having health insurance, because your employer can hold that over your head, and COVID forced a lot of people to be off, we saw some like real issues start being addressed.
Yeah.
Like, weird when you take away the fear of like, oh, if you get sick, you're dead or broke.
Yeah.
Or you have a baby.
Yeah.
If you have a baby, like, I hope you have a baby and 15 grand.
Or more, 50 maybe.
Yeah.
Dear God.
Can you imagine that?
My God. Yeah. There's so something that's been really interesting in the pandemic is that people have learned that like where they were told in many instances you can't work remote.
Yep.
You have to be here to do this job.
People
That's been
with
proven
disabilities
untrue.
who are written off for jobs because they couldn't have been done remotely. Turns out, pretty much everything can be done remotely.
And
Yeah,
that
a lot of
is
stuff.
that is a big, like, I've been keeping check with a lot of my colleagues that work in visual effects, and they're like, the last place I worked before here was Method, and it was like at the high water mark, about 700 people in that building.
Wow.
And they're down to about 10,
Whoa.
20, and that's it. Everyone else is working from home, and you know what? Everything's getting done, and people are getting to see their kids more. People are able to like manage their families and their lives, and everything's getting done. And what an interesting, amazing, byproduct of as horrible as COVID is. Over the years, like we've all wanted to work from home. So why can't we do this from home? And the problem is they'd say, oh, Warner Brothers or Universal doesn't want us to because of audits.
Because they need to time your bathroom breaks to feel alive.
Well, that, and then they're worried about they're worried about that their intellectual property is going to get
Also,
leaked, right?
Yeah.
Also,
That's not the
coming
case.
from post-production, the idea of setting people up remote, there is a data pipeline issue.
Yeah.
There is security of the data.
Security
you
is
have
the
to
big
send
one. That's
back
the
and
one they
forth.
held over our heads for a long
Suddenly, you're having to send visual effects shots back and forth
Yeah.
between an artist who's remote and the studio, and then the studio has to send stuff to the. It's a
Yeah.
whole thing.
But
If
isn't
you have a
that
Marvel
getting
shot
easier
on your
at
computer,
But if it's a
at home, you can
system-
take a picture and
Yes.
send it off.
So-
And it's getting easier, but there is a startup cost associated with that, and because of the way shows are budgeted,
But I mean,
one
if you've
show
got,
has
if you've
to
got
eat
a
that.
building that's got
It's a whole thing.
700 employees in it,
Yeah.
and suddenly you can have those 700 employees still employed, but you don't have to pay for a facility that houses them.
And
all?
they make their own
Paying
coffee.
that
They make their own
facility.
lunch.
Yeah?
Like,
Yeah, and here's the thing.
I'm just pointing out there are
No.
some concerns on the startup side.
Yeah.
The way the industry
Yeah.
is set up is
But
part
you know what? They
different
bowled
engagement.
through the whole thing, and they've managed to make it work. And here's the thing: COVID, a lot of people could go back to work now. Method Studios is still empty, even though COVID, people are vaccinated, things are we're cutting it past the hump a little bit. I know we're in a fourth wave and everything, but
Yeah.
they're not coming back to work. Double negative. DD, like all these visual effects studios in town, all my friends working there, they're still working from home.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily have to be, but you know what? The studios like it too. The studio heads are like, you know what? Let's just keep doing this.
everyone's happy.
And everyone's happy, work's getting done. And
Embrace the
all these like
technology.
security issues, like they're worried about like somebody's kid comes in and shoots a video of like one of the shots they're working on.
Yeah.
Well, the artists are respecting that and knowing that if that gets blown up, they don't want to be responsible for that. And they don't want to blow it up for everybody else.
Well, and
Turns out if you
also-
treat people like adults,
But leaks.
stuff works out.
Figure,
Okay,
right?
look
So
what happened to
weird.
the fucking leaks,
What an
like
amazing
Deadpool.
concept.
The footage that got leaked that ended up in an actual Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
Like leaks aren't that bad. Like it's not
But
giving
imagine
away the
crunch
whole freaking thing.
Those poor IT people, where they were just like, look, we just need to send this many bytes of data across a million artists.
That's
It took a lot to
possible.
set up, and now that it's done, it's great. But I can
Technology's-
only imagine that the setup of making all of that happen was extensive. And
sure.
COVID was extreme conditions for extreme
Yes,
measures.
that was the
and you're right, we
catalyst
have a
to-
beautiful
to-
outcome from
yeah.
that.
That was the catalyst that started it. And the thing is, like, the reality is, like, 5G. I mean, we all have fiber optic to our homes now, especially living in Vancouver. Bandwidth issues are not a thing. And the thing is, like, really at home, you have a Teradici, which is like a remote workstation little gizmo that you're not even using, like, you're plugging into a computer
Yeah.
at the studio anyway.
That's what I was going to say. Is like
You're there as a proxy.
virtualization. You don't even need
don't
that
need to
fast
be
of a
there.
connection anymore. You don't
Yeah.
need a fancy computer with like huge compute or render capabilities. You're like thin clienting into your workstation in some server farm or some office somewhere.
You don't have to all you have to do is transfer the monitor data from
Yeah.
the computer
Yeah,
so you can
exactly.
see what you're doing and there's no lag.
You need
And I've
like
got
a
friends
good color
that are,
calibrated
like,
monitor.
In
That's
interviews
it.
now, they're like, first question is, can I work from home? And if they say no, they get up and they walk out.
Oh,
They're like-
damn.
it's
Or they
like-
close the
it's
Zoom
created a new standard, and it's interesting.
Where you
Or
can
they
see
Close
it-
the Zoom meeting window because
In-
they're
in
already
They get
Van-
up and then they close it.
They just run back into frame, but they're like, I made my point. End meeting.
It's one of the most interesting byproducts of COVID that I've seen yet is the change in an industry that I've been in for 2 decades.
Well, and it's not even just this industry. Like it's
And it's
a ton
absolutely,
of stuff. Tons of people
100%.
don't want to go back to work.
Why would you?
What a great
yeah.
world it could be if we can work from home and still do what we need to do, and everything, as long as things get delivered
I
on
need
time.
you in office, Trevor. You can't work from home.
Damn it, you saw through my. No.
I mean,
We spent the last hour working on Roz.
Here's the thing. Actually, you touched on something. I hate it because I actually love working here, and it's like, damn it. I like coming into work here. If it was any other studio, I'd be like, I'm good working from home.
yeah, that makes sense.
And some
AFL
people
is
work
a
better
fantastic studio.
having somewhere to go.
Oh, nice.
I do love it. So it's like, it's great, but it's also like, son of a bitch.
But there, even Vancouver film, we're seeing people who are, because a lot of times it's like, we'll work infinite hours, but you're gonna pay out the nose for it.
Yeah.
But we're now seeing it in Vancouver film where it's like, no.
Yeah, that's been such an interesting thing because like I worked most of my lighting career was on set, and usually our crunch was just super long days. Like
was
there's one show in
every
particular
day.
where we averaged 16-hour days. We were working over the course of a month and a half. We were doing like a lot of 19s and shit like that. And then like it's dangerous. You're driving home. You're also lifting heavy stuff. You're operating machinery. Super dangerous. The most dangerous one I ever did was actually rigging for Pirates of the Caribbean. Naming names.
Naming names.
But like
Listen,
rigging
Johnny.
for that,
Hi, Disney.
we were doing 13-hour days, and I did 23 of them in a row. And I wasn't just sitting at a computer. I was operating a 125-foot lift indoors over other people that were working in various departments.
That's hella safe. As long as you're getting
Yeah.
overtime, everything's cool.
Oh man, just insane.
You raise a good point. It's like, I talk from a point where like post can be done from home, but obviously production, you have to be there.
Yeah.
And since COVID, there's been a big vacuum created from the lack of new content. And
Yep.
it's going to be a lot of pressure on production and post-production to fill that vacuum. And you're going to see a lot of that coming up. And there's going to be a lot more of this like long hours because studios are going to then again start now that
Oh, they want to crank stuff out.
they want to crack stuff. And I'm already hearing murmurs
Which
of
is
it.
so
on
freaking
both
weird
sides.
because you don't need
Nobody
to. Like,
cares.
I
No.
know.
Leave Netflix.
Let it take the time that the workers need. Like
I could watch Friends for another round, sure.
That's all everyone does anyway. Everyone's
like,
just
okay.
watching The Office. Stop adding new shit.
This is two-sided because we
So true.
at the same time
Yeah.
they say
relax.
we're not saving lives, like we're not exactly curing cancer.
No.
We're not like it's all entertainment.
We're
Like,
causing
video games
cancer.
or yeah, but
People are working too long.
it's true, like either video games or movies or TV shows, whatever, none of it's all just entertainment. But we also realized how important entertainment is when you can't leave your freaking house.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
it's
my
a mental
God.
health issue, 100%. I mean, people need to escape, and
Yeah.
I personally take pride in helping to. I'd like to think that anything I do would maybe help people with that.
Yeah.
But you go to restaurants and you choose where you eat, where you buy your stuff based on like humane treatment.
Yeah.
And I feel like I really hope that comes out of COVID where it's like, I'm gonna watch shows that I know
Treat their people well.
treat people
Yeah,
well.
I mean, I think. Okay, Ryan, what's up?
I was just going to ask, Jason might know this, and this is an interesting thought, but is there any like website or app or something that like if you are just, Johnny TV show viewer where you can tell like if the people who make that thing did it like in a humane way where you don't have to like
Interesting.
go deep down some Google rabbit hole trying to like read production diaries or articles in Variety or something like?
That is a really interesting question because
Yeah.
everybody has a different concern about what you're looking for. So in this case, we're talking about did your show do crunch?
I think
but
you're
wh-
not
but
going to
I
hear that
know
information a lot.
It's going to get more available.
Yes,
Right, than it was
sure.
before. But I know like Natasha would be really curious about is your show green? How green is your show?
Oh yeah.
So all of the stats that you could associate with your production and your shows run all the way from development to delivery and marketing and all of those metrics that we could use to measure things, but if those were available to people and that impacted the way they
Yeah.
chose what they watched, that would be a really interesting set of data.
So no,
Share
but
with
let's
people.
talk.
Yeah. I know you asked me a little bit about like
Interesting idea, right?
It's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I think there.
Let's talk
I think there's a lot of people
about
who
this
won't
idea.
talk is the thing. I think there's a lot of people on set who won't say what the conditions were
look,
like.
no one wants to
'Cause
know
they
how
don't-
the Saturday Night Live sausage gets made.
Yeah.
No one wants to know. because it gets made.
Or South Park. It's 6 days. 6 days to air.
Yeah, there's
What
no-
were you? They also have no notes. Hey.
No.
Like Comedy Central, they're not allowed to give notes.
Yeah.
They just deliver the show and go, here you go, fuckers,
This is
air it. What were you going
Pretty
to say?
awesome deal, actually.
I was going to talk about, you were asking me earlier in the day, when we knew this would be the topic today, a bit about coming from science.
Oh yeah.
You know, because we talk a little bit about, like, we've got careers making entertainment content, which we all agree has, you know, the value of it, we've understood a lot more through COVID. But what about other careers? And so we're all connected to people who have other jobs, other career paths.
Yep.
I came from a world of science, and you were like, well, did you ever have a late night in film? And did you ever have a late night in science? Yes, I have been somewhere at 2 a.m. eating Fruit Loops to deliver my show, for sure. Rarely it happened to me at my previous job in post, but post-production, you're right at the end of the line. You got to make that delivery.
Yep.
You do whatever it takes to make that deadline. I've done that. It was rare for me, so I'm lucky. But yeah, 2 a.m. Fruit Loop party with the colorist, 100%. Did I ever have to do 2 a.m. Fruit Loops at the lab? Yes, also that. But it was usually because my stuff was ready at 2 a.m., so
Yeah.
that's where I was going to be at 2 a.m.
Yeah, if you have like something that needs 36 hours and you started at a certain time, you got to be there at that 36th hour.
And, you know, it grows how much it wants to grow. And as many times as you think it's going to be ready at 4 p.m., sometimes that's not what happens.
Okay.
But yeah.
I've
so-
already extended. I gave us an extra 5 minutes, but that
you're
5
right,
minutes
you're
is up. So we have reached an hour. We evened out at an hour.
Time is flying.
And because of those, I think we got to stick to it. So thank you guys for being here. Everybody watching at home, stay tuned for the raid. We are going to raid April Anonymous because we were talking about Mass Effect, and she's
Yeah.
playing Mass Effect Legendary right now. I want to say thank you to you guys. Thank you to Ryan. Thank you to all the crew. Thank you to everyone at AFL. And thank you, the viewer, for watching. Until next time, stay filthy.